While researching some fun places to eat in Philadelphia, we wanted to do a couple of like kind of hip brunches. One place that came up a lot was a place called Talulas Garden. We made a reservation for a nice low-key brunch while we were in Philadelphia. I'm doing this review recap style. Let me show you around the restaurant. We'll get into a little bit of the food and all the amazing vibes. So hit a like, subscribe if you like food, and let's go. One thing that stood out to me about Talulas Garden was the menu. It was kind of simple and understated in a sense, but you definitely get the idea that there was a lot of thought and planning that went into that menu. This here is straight from the About Me section of their website. It says, driven by local ingredients prepared in unbreakable harmony with the season, Talulas Garden is a celebration of cooking the way it ought to be. A partnership with award-winning restaurateur Amy, I don't want to mispronounce it, Alexi. A true farm-to-table ethos inspires Tallulas' unforgettable approach to food. Interpretations of traditional, mid-Atlantic cuisine with a light and modern touch, the indoor-outdoor space exudes a cozy, upbeat vibe with attention to detail that extends into the gorgeous patio of the cheese bar, home to Maitre Fromage, Alexi's standout program. Lush plants and vegetations throughout remind guests that the land is the source of all things wholesome and delicious. When I'm not eating junky foods like chicken sandwiches and Philly steaks and hot dogs, this is the type of food that I want to eat. Talulas Garden is run by the Star Restaurant Group. They have kind of like a dozen different restaurants, including the one I'm going to tell you a little bit more about at the end of this video. All right, so what about the vibes at Talulas Garden? This place is kind of on a quiet block. It's almost in like a residential neighborhood, but it's only a few blocks away from the Liberty Bell and some other tourist locations. They have both indoor and outdoor seating, and it's a really, really chill vibe. The aesthetic has kind of like a repurposed antique kind of look, and that goes from everything from the furniture that's in there to like even the silverware they hand you. With the dish that I ordered, they actually brought me a steak knife that looked like kind of like a pocket knife that's been like frozen open. And that was kind of a really cool touch. One of those things that only I would pick up on, but kind of fun. So how did I order at Talulas? Given that this was like the third day that we were in Philly, and by that point we had already eaten things like cheesesteaks and cannoli, cookies, gelato, and probably a bunch of other stuff that I can't even think about right now, I was looking for something a little bit more composed and kind of definitely on the savory side of brunch. The menu kind of spanned. They had all different types of stuff from blueberry ricotta pancakes, French toast sticks, and then other kind of savory staples like local scrambled eggs with biscuits, eggs Benedict with like a house-made English muffin, which actually sounds pretty good. But there was one item on there that really struck me as creative and something I really wanted to order, and that was the savory steak and egg bowl. The menu describes it as, I gotta read off here, short rib, grits, roasted mushrooms, poached eggs, miso chili jam. When I saw that description, just about everything, maybe excluding the poached egg, seemed to need a lot of work that went into it. So that's what I went and ordered. Now from tasting this dish, that was very true. It's really simple in concept. You know, a bowl of grits, some beef, some mushrooms, a poached egg, some seasonings. But as far as everything tasted, a lot of work definitely went into each of those things. Super rich, with like a really heavy dose of umami. Like when I got the bowl in front of me, part of me just wanted to kind of mix everything up and just like, you know, eat it like with a spoon. But I really, for the purpose of the review, kind of wanted to, you know, respect all the items and break it down one by one. The short rib was obviously cooked for a very long time in some really, really heavy kind of seasonings. And like as soon as I poked this thing with the fork, the whole thing wanted to fall apart. Super rich and really heavily browned. Mushrooms very simply prepared, kind of nice, slow kind of saute until they were nice and soft. The grits were super creamy and almost like light in a sense. Kind of like they whipped some air into it while they were making it. It also had some nice texture, a little bit of grittiness to it, and wasn't just a bowl of mush. That miso chili jam was actually like spread around part of the edge of the plate. Really salty and savory on its own, almost kind of too salty and savory. And I feel like the way this bowl was composed, they wanted you to kind of choose your own adventure, so you could swipe some of that miso jam, pick up maybe a little bit of the steak, maybe a little mushroom, maybe a little piece of the egg. You can mix some of the egg in there. But as far as I'm concerned, that miso jam was like the perfect thing to season up those mushrooms and even the steak. The steak was already nice and rich, but that miso jam in combination with that steak was just incredible. And that jam also had like a little bit of tanginess that kind of counteracted the egg and the nice creaminess of the yolk, as well as the creaminess of that bowl of polenta. Now my egg might have been a little bit on the well done side, but you know, given the fact that we're at brunch and we're just trying to take our time and, you know, relax and everything, I wasn't gonna make a big deal over it. And you know, one of those things where we still had a little nice runniness to it. And you got to also understand that this is a really hot plate of, you know, deliciousness. Kind of might have been sitting under a heat lamp or something for a second. So it is what it is. It was still awesome. Really great dish. Cassie really wanted to try their home-baked cheddar chive biscuit, so that's what we did. We split it, and it came with a honey black pepper butter. In this case here, and I really don't want to kind of bash it, but the biscuit was, I think, less interesting than that honey butter. It's not that the biscuit was bad or anything like that, like, don't get me wrong, but that honey butter, like, I never thought black pepper would actually, like, help to make the honey a little bit sweeter. And on top of a biscuit, just awesome. I mean, just incredible. One thing that was a little bit disappointing was their coffee selection was a little bit lacking. They didn't have too many selections. I like to see, like, you know, maybe some fraps, maybe cold brew or something like that in there. But there was a drink on their beer menu that actually, I think, fit a lot of my check boxes for that day. It was called Wiseacre Gotta Get Up Coffee Milk Stout. I mean, with a name like that, it's gotta be good, right? Now, I usually don't order stouts because for me, they're kind of heavy, especially with a rich dish like that. But because I really wanted some coffee, I figured that would be a good substitute, and it really was. And actually, in this case here, I didn't find it to be as heavy as a usual stout. The alcohol by volume was only about 5%, so maybe that kind of played into the fact that it wasn't as heavy. Usually when I drink stouts, I'm drinking like 10 to 20% alcohol stouts. So, you know, between the fact that it was a nice, like, heavy beer, you know, with the beef, everything really went well together, and it was just one of those amazing brunches that we had in Philadelphia. Later on in the trip, we tried a different restaurant from the Star Restaurant Group portfolio called The Love. Completely different in vibes, completely different in menu, and that's a video that's coming up on the channel here soon. So if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you subscribe if you want to see that. Make sure you check out our entire Philadelphia vlog where I had the best cannoli I've ever had in my life. I'll leave that right here, and you could check that amazing video out. Have an awesome day, and we will see you in the next one.